What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 31. So I'm going to show you how the team is looking, thoughts on transfers, captaincy, all that good stuff. And there is quite a few issues starting to crop up with my team. So quite a few things to manage and to talk about. And we'll go through all that in a minute. Let's discuss Game Week 30 first of all. So I would say it was an okay week. I got 59 points. It was a green arrow rather than a red one. So I went from 93k to 91k. And that has kept the green arrow streak going. So that's nice. I don't know whether that will also happen in Game Week 31. We'll have to see about that. But right now, things are going pretty well. My transfer was Tony to Haaland. I had enough money in the bank to make that in one move. And obviously, glad I did because I ended up captaining him. He was the highest scoring player in my team. And most of the heavy lifting for those 59 points was done by my forwards. So Kane got that goal against Brighton plus the 3 bonus. Watkins got that very late goal and late yellow card. I actually only saw the yellow card first of all. I was like, okay, so he's lost 1 point. Completely missed the goal, so that was a nice surprise. And obviously Haaland got the 2 goals. The only other player that actually did anything for me was Rashford, and he was so highly captained, I needed him to blank anyway. So that didn't really matter. Everyone else blanked. The only, I guess, mistake that I made was benching Solly March. I was always going to play Matoma ahead of him, so I'm not too worried about that. I did discuss whether to play March or Odegaard before, obviously, the deadline. I decided to go with Odegaard. Arsenal did score 2 goals against Liverpool, but he wasn't involved. I'm not too concerned about that. There's going to be a few times over this season, like the rest of the season, where there are game weeks I'm going to have to bench someone good, because that's the kind of downside, if you want to say it like that, of having a good squad. But it also helps manage certain situations. Like next week, for example, with Rashford being injured, I don't necessarily have to transfer him out because I've got someone on my bench that I can call upon. So I think people see it as a downside when you bench points. And look, you always want to get the maximum score. And that would have been playing Solly March ahead of Matoma or Odegaard. But it is what it is. Going forward, hopefully that will help me. So 59 points, pretty decent. Another green arrow. Let's see if we can kick on next week. All right, let's talk about the defence and goalkeepers, and this is really where the issues begin. So I've got Luke Shaw, who's an injury doubt. I've got Ben Chilwell, who I cannot be 100% sure is going to start. And if I do play him, and Frank Lampard ends up benching him, he's probably going to come on for a 1-pointer. It could even end up like last week where he got 0 points. Then on the bench, I've got Botman against Aston Villa away. I don't think that Newcastle are going to get a clean sheet. I don't mind playing Trippier because his ownership is so high anyway and he's got that attacking threat. But I don't want to play double Newcastle defence. Then with Estepinian, I absolutely think there's a chance that Brighton can go and beat Chelsea given how the two teams have been playing recently. But I don't necessarily think they're going to get a clean sheet either. So I'd prefer to back the guy playing at home that will hopefully play as a left wing back. But as I said, I've also got doubts about him. So there's 2 players in my 11 that I've got doubts over, and 2 players on my bench I don't really want to play. And yet there's not really a transfer that I want to make this week that I can afford. And part of the reason is feeling a little bit stuck because of free hit in Game Week 32. Now, I've had that plan for a while. I'm definitely going to stick to it. And I think overall it's going to benefit my squad, but it does make the transfer this week a little bit more difficult because I can't roll it. If you roll your transfer before a free hit, the game week after you still only have 1 transfer. So bear that in mind, right? If you're free hitting in game week 32, you should be using the transfer this week. So that move has to benefit me hopefully in game week 31. If not, it definitely has to benefit me from game week 33 onwards. And obviously at that point, we're thinking about all the double game weeks there are to come. Also, that deadline is 12 days away. So by that point, we'll also know what happens with the European quarterfinals like Europa League and Champions League. So if you look at the players I could use a transfer on, well, Estepinian, not great this week. But Nottingham Forest away in game week 33, 3 double game weeks to come afterwards. Don't really want to get rid of him. Trippier and Botman, okay, not necessarily ideal this week. Game week 33, Everton away, don't mind playing them. Game week 34, if I have to play a single game week player in a double, well, Newcastle have got Southampton at home, good fixture. Then they've got another double game week to come after that, and they're both nailed. Trippier I just cannot get rid of for obvious reasons, and Botman's so cheap. Then with Luke Shaw, okay, he may be back for Nottingham Forest away. We'll have to wait and see. It's a bit of a weird situation because Ten Hag won't tell us what the injury is. And he keeps saying he thinks it's short term. Yet I don't even know if he's back in training yet. And the last thing he said was he expects him back at short notice. So maybe he'll be back for Nottingham Forest away, in which case all my problems go away. But even if he's not fit, I think I would prefer just to play Botman, because I was going to bench Shaw in 33 anyway for Spurs away, and after that the fixtures are great. And also, if the tie is tight between Man United and Sevilla tonight, there is obviously going to be a chance that Man United go out. Now, they will be the favourites, but if they don't go through, then all there is left to worry about is FA Cup, and by game week 33 we'll know whether Man United are still in the FA Cup or not, and then that's it, just the Premier League, in which case Luke Shaw's minutes shoot up, and with 2 double game weeks to come and his attacking threat, I want to keep hold of him. Obviously, if Ten Hag said he was out for a long time, that would be different, but I don't think that's going to be the case. That's not the kind of story that he's been going with, that he should be back soon. So I don't really want to get rid of Shaw either. So that just leaves Chilwell. Now, he is the one defender in this team that I had earmarked to transfer out in game week 34 for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Liverpool players. They don't want Trent. They think he's too expensive. I get that. But I really like the fixtures. And if people are going to be put off getting him, that just makes me want to get him more, because he could be an explosive differential. And so my plan was to get the money to do Chilwell to Trent in 34. And I could move that transfer forward to this week. The problem is I can't afford it, so I would have to take a hit. And there aren't any players in my team that I want to downgrade this week, or that there are good downgrades for. The one player that I was thinking about getting the money from was Harry Kane in game week 34, because Spurs don't have any more doubles. I cannot do that this week before Bournemouth at home. So that is why I feel a bit stuck. If Shaw was ruled out for like the rest of the season, which isn't going to happen by the way, but let's just say he was, then I would do Chilwell to Trent and Shaw to Malacia, and that would be done. But that's not the case, and I want to keep hold of Luke Shaw for all the reasons I've just spoken about. The only defenders that I can afford, that I'm tempted by, are Man City defenders, because they got Leicester at home this week, and that is more likely to be a clean sheet than Chelsea against Brighton at home. But none of them are as attacking as Chilwell when he plays in a back three, as a wing back obviously. And in game week 33, right, just to show you here, because I've got to think about this week and 33 onwards, Chelsea have Brentford at home. Now, that's not necessarily a high chance of a clean sheet, but if they're out of Europe, I would expect Chilwell to play. And I think that is probably better than having a Man City defender for Arsenal at home, where I would expect them to concede. And also, that slot was intended for Trent. And so if I get a Man City defender in this week, I would then either have to go without Trent, who I really want, or I'd have to take a Man City defender out after probably conceding to Arsenal and then ahead of a double game week in 34, which won't feel good to do. So that is why I feel stuck. I'm sure there's people looking at this team thinking, I would just do this move, it's so obvious. But given how I want to play out the rest of the season, I don't think there's a good defender move. So I suspect I'm going to hope that Luke Shaw plays. If not, I'll play Botman. And I'm going to take the risk that Chilwell starts. Now, last night in the Champions League, he got a red card. I did tweet that his minutes in the Premier League will now go up. As people have pointed out, maybe Frank Lampard punishes him because he was the one that got sent off. Therefore, then Real Madrid went and got another goal. But I also think Cucurella was at quite a bit of fault for that goal. Like, he lost his runner and Chilwell ended up, making the mistake to get sent off, right? So I don't know whether he's definitely going to be benched or not, but ultimately he doesn't need to be rested for that Real Madrid game, and Brighton is a tough game, and Lampard cannot continue losing games, right? There's pride at stake as much as anything else, and in his best 11 it is Chilwell, but at the same time maybe he's going to think, I need to play Cucurella to get him ready how I want to play ahead of Real Madrid. So it's 50-50 cool. I think I'm going to keep Chilwell and hope for the best, and if Botman comes off my bench, so be it. Like I said, I just can't see any reason to make a defender transfer this week. The only other transfer I'm thinking about making, just quickly, is the original goalkeeper move that I talked about before, Raya to Ederson. Do I really think Ederson is a much better option this week than Raya? Absolutely not. But from 33 onwards, Man City have some good single game week fixtures. They've got 2 double game weeks. He's the most nailed defensive player in that team. I think it could pay off for the rest of the season. So I'm not completely ruling out doing Raya to Ederson, but outside of that, I don't think I'm going to make any defender transfers. All right, let's take a look at the midfield. And I would say, as things stand, I'm not looking to use a transfer on any of the 4 players that are in my starting 11. Certainly not Matoma and March. We know how many extra fixtures Brighton have from 33 onwards. They do blank in game week 32, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to free hit. And this week, Chelsea away is not a great fixture on paper, but given the way the two teams are playing, you would expect Brighton to score in that game. So I'm not really worried about having to play those two this week. You might turn around and say, if you're that confident in returns, why are you so keen on keeping Chilwell? I'm not really that keen on keeping him. I just don't see a transfer that I want to make. Like I said, I haven't got the cash for Trent Alexander-Arnold. So my hope is that Chilwell will start, and if Mitoma and March return, that Chilwell will also get attacking returns. And if they don't, they end up blanking. Hopefully Chilwell gets the clean sheet. That's the way I'm looking at it right now anyway. With Fernandes, I think I've got to hold on to him. Casemiro is back from suspension. Eriksen is back from injury. It's now much more likely he plays in an advanced role, either as the number 10 or off the right or off the left at times. And I do think it's possible that he could play on that left wing position because he's done it on the right already when Antony hasn't played. And now with Rashford out, Ten Hag might trial that. So it's not necessarily ideal, but it's better than him playing deep. What I would say is he played very well in that deep lying position. Ten Hag will have taken note of that. There's nothing to say it doesn't happen again in the future. And also, Eriksen is only just back from injury, and Man United have got a lot of fixtures. So is Eriksen going to suddenly come back and play every 3 to 4 days? Probably not. He's probably going to have to build that fitness up to start doing that again. So maybe because of that, Fernandes might play deeper at times, but I think with Casemiro back, that's very unlikely. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. And I just can't get rid of him before Nottingham Forest away. So that is just something to reassess ahead of Game Week 33. And in that time, Man United will play a lot of fixtures, which we'll come on to in a minute. With Odegaard, he's the only one of the 4 I've briefly considered selling for Grealish, who's very popular this week, went up in price last night to 7.1. And I do think Grealish is the better option this week, but I don't know if there's a huge amount in it. And then in Game Week 33, when I'm going to need them again, they play against each other, right? And a bit like Chilwell becoming Trent, my original plan was Odegaard becoming Salah, so that was the slot for it. And if I do Odegaard to Grealish, and then Rashford's fit for Game Week 34, well, suddenly I've got Mitoma, March, Fernandes, Grealish, Rashford, all of them with a double game week, and no slot for Salah. So then I'm in a position of not getting Salah, which you know I'm not going to do, or having to sell a double game week player for a hit, which also isn't going to feel good. So I feel like it's better to just buy another week's worth of information and not do Odegaard to Grealish. The more likely transfer is Rashford to Grealish, and just hope that he's not, from an FPL point of view at least, not back for Game Week 34. So that decision makes sense. But I don't know how confident I am in that, because Ten Hag basically said that he's not broken, he's already working on his rehab, and that he'd be out for a few games. Now, if you're looking at that from a game week perspective, a few game weeks, 31, 32, 33, probably 34 as well. But if you're looking at it as a few games, Man United have got a lot of fixtures to come, right? So before the first game of double game week 34, which is Villa on the 30th of April, they got to play the first leg against Sevilla, they got to play Nottingham Forest, the second leg against Sevilla, the FA Cup semi-final against Brighton, and Spurs away. That's 5 matches. Would that be a few games? I would say probably, yeah. So there is a chance that Rashford could be back for Game Week 34, and if he is, he's definitely a better option than Grealish, which is why I'm not as convinced as other people to bring him in. I think if you think Rashford misses 34, or you just don't want to take the risk, you absolutely just get Grealish in, because his minutes look pretty good. But there's something in the back of my mind that just says, once Foden is back, could he play on the left at some point? I think Grealish is playing so well, that's very unlikely. And if I had to say right now how many of the remaining 9 games in the league for City that Grealish is going to play, I would probably say at least 8, maybe all 9 of them. But there's still that nagging feeling in the back of my mind that he's got 1 goal, 1 assist in the last 2 games, and we're all suddenly jumping on him. Before that, he was a little bit more inconsistent. So that's why I'm a little bit worried about it. What I will say about Rashford is, if we want him to play in both games in the double, so the 30th of April and the 4th of May, Villa at home, Brighton away, he's probably got to be back for Spurs in some capacity off the bench. Because if he doesn't play in this game, is he going to get thrown straight into the first 11 against Villa? Possibly not. The other thing to say, this Spurs game is a Thursday. I think the deadline for game week, I think I saw Neil from Fantasy Football Scout tweeting about this. The deadline is on Tuesday. So Ten Hag's press conference for this game is probably going to be on Wednesday. So the deadline will already have gone. And because it's a Thursday night game, we might not get a proper press conference on Friday ahead of the game week 34 deadline. So if you keep hold of Rashford, you're running the risk that you don't get the information you need. So I'm very uncertain about whether or not to make that Rashford to Grealish move. Partly because if I do it, I've then got to bench one of March or Odegaard. And as much as I think Grealish is a better option than both of them, I don't know if it's worth so much that I need to make the transfer this week. So part of me is just thinking wait until game week 33, because by that point, Man United will have played Sevilla twice, Nottingham Forest and Brighton. We'll have a clearer picture of where Fernandes has been playing, but that's also 4 games where we might get injury updates against about Rashford. And if I get to game week 33 or 34 and then I've got to get Grealish in, is that much of a worry? I guess it depends what you think he's going to do against Leicester. He could go and get another 12 plus pointer, but if he only gets like 7 or 8 points, can March and Odegaard get close to that? I would say probably. So I guess while I'm talking about it out loud, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those moves that when I get to the deadline, I'll probably just do it. I'll probably just take the points from Grealish now. And then if Rashford's back, then have to make that tough decision of getting him and Salah back in. But I'm not sure about it. I actually think there's more of a chance right now of me doing Raya to Ederson and sticking with the original plan. Like I said, I just don't know. Let me know in the comments below. If you've got Rashford and not Maddison, are you selling him to Grealish or are you going to give him another week and then decide? And then the forwards are probably the easiest position to talk about. I've got Kane, Watkins and Haaland. I'm not planning on selling any of them. Haaland will definitely be my captain. And to be honest, it's been nice over the last few weeks to have a bit of a captaincy discussion in videos. So game week 27, it was Tony versus Brighton midfielders for the double. Game week 28 was Kane versus Saka. Game week 29 was kind of Rashford versus Maddison versus, Brighton midfielders again. But Haaland is fit now. He is basically going to be captain every single week for the rest of the season, apart from probably game week 32, just because he blanks, so you literally can't captain him, right? Most people are going to go for Saka or Salah. And then game week 36, if that's where the Newcastle-Brighton double gets put in, I suspect a lot of people will captain a Brighton or Newcastle player. Outside of that, Man City's fixtures are so good. They've got so many double game weeks. Haaland is basically captain now, unless we see some kind of rotation around Champions League, which we just haven't seen so far. So yeah, I'm not going to be talking about captaincy much in videos anymore. It's just going to be Haaland. I think with Kane, he is eventually the player that I will sell to get Salah, but I can't do that before Bournemouth at home. And I have briefly considered Chilwell to Trent and downgrade Watkins and then just hope that my Newcastle defence gets a clean sheet. But I think Watkins is playing so well right now, I just don't need to force him out. And also, I don't really know which forward I would bring in. I guess Isak would be the main one because Newcastle got some pretty good single game week fixtures and that double game week still to come. But I just don't know if I need to make that move this week. So for game week 31 as a whole, I think with so many people getting Grealish and me maybe not doing that and just getting Ederson, which does feel a bit passive for this week, I'm almost just treading on water and hoping that I don't get a big red arrow. And the big returns will probably come when I free hit in 32. And then hopefully, if the team doesn't have too many more issues to deal with, there's big points coming from 33 onwards. But I just got a feeling about this week that it's not going to be great for me, even though I think the team looks okay on paper. So transfers, Rashford to Grealish possibly, Raya to Ederson possibly, maybe a defender transfer. It would have to be for a Man City defender. I'm just not convinced about that. So as it stands right now, more likely to do Ederson. I think by the time we get to the deadline, I'm more likely just to get Grealish in because it feels more fun. I don't think I'm going to do a defender transfer. I'm definitely going to captain Haaland. So if you've enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and I'll catch you again tomorrow.